as you may know from text messages from me, my household has become a Power Rangers household in the past month or so. I mean, I've always been a fan, but my young son, he's 5 years old. I showed him some Power Rangers, and he is hooked. We have binged the entire first season, all 60 episodes. We're working our way through season
That's
two.
a few.
I haven't. I mean, we've covered multiple Power Rangers movies on our podcast. I've talked about. I mean, but I'm a millennial boy. Like I love Power Rangers. I grew up with it, but I haven't done a. Did you just wince at me saying millennial boy? Because it sounded. Yeah, I know. It sounded weird.
I didn't care for that.
I'm a boy. I'm a millennial boy. A millennial male.
I'm a real boy.
I was once a young boy in the early 90s. And so, of course, I love Power Rangers. That's all I'm trying to say here. But I haven't, you know how it is, Andrew. Like, you love the idea of Power Rangers, love the nostalgia of Power Rangers. You don't necessarily sit around and watch Power Rangers episodes. I mean, I haven't done a deep dive like this and consumed this much Power Rangers content, original Mighty Morphin content, in a very long time. All that is to say, the show's pretty great. It's a lot of fun. And what's fascinating to me is that it just works. Like, I didn't know if my son would get into it because it's obviously very dated. It was dated at the time. It's even more so now. But it's just a blast. It's just fun and silly and over the top. And literally, we were driving yesterday, and he's in his car seat, and he's holding up an imaginary dagger going, doo, 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 doo. I'm like, it was kind of a trip because, like, when I was literally his age, I was doing that exact thing. It's wild. But have you seen the reignition that they did a few years back? The upscale of season 1.
Can't say I cared for it, but I know
you weren't a fan of, is it because it's an AI upscale, Andrew? On principle,
partly, but also didn't they add like weird sound effect bubbles and stuff like that too, like 60s Batman style?
Well, that I'm not sure. We actually watched like over 40 episodes before I realized like Netflix had this upgraded version. So the last few episodes I switched over to it, and mostly it just looked a lot crisper, looked nice. But I don't know like what all they did. I don't know. We don't need to get too off into it. The point is, it's funny going back to Power Rangers as an adult, and we all know now like how the show was created. We probably, I can say for sure, we didn't know at the time. Reusing footage from an existing Japanese television show, et cetera, et cetera. But it's funny to go back and so clearly see the seams and see where it's stitched together and see like, oh, why is Trini have to go take care of something? Oh, because this footage doesn't have the Yellow Ranger in it, so they need an excuse to write this character out just before they battle. They will just hop back and forth between. It's wild. But
the one
like I said,
thing I always noticed, even as a kid, was the Green Ranger shield. That was always the tell.
The American one is so like foam
floppy.
Looking.
It's like it's just floppy. Like the Japanese one is like just it. There's no real nice way to say it. It's firmer, and the American one is just like super floppy,
which is wild because I read that they actually used the original helmets, like some of the villain costumes, like Goldar, and the helmets they shipped over for the American production team to use. They didn't reproduce the helmets, but like, I guess the shield was too hard to ship. Maybe it degraded. Maybe it was just.
It's a problem with a lot of it, and I may have talked about this on the show before, but when you're using, so what's kind of funny is that in America, Mighty Morphin Power Rangers is the thing that's most well known. The show was on for 20 plus years. I think it's kind of off now, but the most iconic version of Power Rangers is like a drop in the hat in Japan. Like in Japan, Zoo Ranger was just that year's Power Sentai, and the next year they moved on to Kaku Ranger, or not Kaku Ranger, Dai Ranger, which was where we took the Thunder Zords from, and the White Ranger. The White Ranger and the Thunder Zords come from Dai Ranger, and then the Ninja Zords and the Alien Rangers were Kaku Ranger, which was the season after that. But like, there's a season before Zoo Ranger called Jetman, which is actually one of my favorite series of Super Sentai. One of the best themes too. But like, So Japan, I remember hearing that they were always kind of like confused that we made such a big deal out of Zoo Ranger. Even like watching Zoo Ranger, like that became like this American thing of like, oh man, have you seen like the source for Power Rangers? Have you watched Zoo Ranger? And let me tell you, folks, the story of Zoo Ranger is a trip. They're like descendants of dinosaurs. It's legit insane. Don't get me wrong, it's good, but it's like insane. Like it's like not even close to being the same story. But that was the thing I did truly always notice as a kid was the Green Ranger, because my mom made me a Green Ranger costume when I was a kid because I don't know, she loved me. I don't know. But it's but the shield she made me looked like the American one. It was like it was kind of floppy and it was like
Yeah.
and I loved it. And but then the Japan one was just like I said, it was more formed, I guess. And later American versions would use a shield more akin to that, like when they brought the Green Ranger back, 97 times, because Jason David Frank, rest in peace, just kept coming back to that show anytime he wanted. But that was always the tell for me. And then obviously I'd be like, man, it looks like all the Power Rangers lost some weight because they're all real thin now. But
Yeah.
it's that was always that. But even as a kid watching it, I was just like, seems odd that Green Ranger, like, so there was. I don't know that I was tacitly aware enough to be like, oh, they're clearly using two different forms of footage, but I could clearly tell there was
Something going on. Yeah.
Something was different.
And then it gets
yeah.
more complicated because, as you said, like Mighty Morphin is based on one specific season of Super Sentai, and they try to keep those Power Rangers for season 2 and 3, but they are out of source footage. So they're reusing some footage. Apparently they shot just for Power Rangers.
Yeah, they literally commissioned Toei Studios specifically to be like, hey, we need more Zord and monster footage. Like, so like they specifically commissioned them to make more Zord monster stuff because they were out of it.
Well, I'm in the early parts of season 2 where they're trying to use the Zords from the following Super Sentai, so you can't see the Power Rangers fight a monster and their Zords fight the large version of the monster in the same episode because they only have footage of one or the other. I mean, the seams are getting ridiculous. I'm very curious to see how this plays out across.
Oh, and it's even funnier on some of these other shows, and I may have talked about this, and if I have, just shut me up. But Kamen Rider Black RX was a Super Sentai show that America turned into Masked Rider, which you will get to the backdoor pilot of at some point in season 3, I think, maybe season 2. Now the problem is that Kamen Rider Black is one standalone season that is a sequel to the series Kamen Rider Black in Japan. It is standalone. But Black and Black RX aired in 87 to 89. So by the time we get to it in 93, 94, pretty much all the monster suits are degraded to nothing. And so they're literally cutting around the edges to make Black RX into a show and have to explain a whole bunch of different things about why it's that way. But one of my favorite things is there's the last 2 episodes of Black RX are Kamen Rider Black RX teaming up with the 10 Kamen Riders that came before him. Kamen Rider just being a loose translation to Masked Rider. But because it was old footage, they didn't have any of the other suits for the other Kamen Riders. So when they needed to do American footage for the scenes where the human form talks to the other riders, it's his own costumes like standing behind him to mimic the scene as best they can. So like the scene is he's sitting like, and all of 10 of the riders are standing around him. So when it's like behind him, they'll just use the Japanese footage of the Japanese actor. But when it's his face, like, and if you look behind him, it's just his own costume standing behind him to mimic the appearance of a group standing around him. And the more even notable version is, do you remember VR Troopers?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So VR Troopers was at one point 3 different shows being combined into one. And so It was two shows, one called Metalder, which was where the main guy comes from, like the red and blue split. And then there was another show called Dimensional Warrior Spielbahn. That was the other two characters are from. So there's no Japanese footage of the three of them together because they're never together in Japan because they're not from the same show. So any footage of them together had to be shot in America, but then the Japan footage had to be done differently. So that's why if you ever watch VR Troopers, you will often find that the characters split to go deal with things because there's no footage of them together.
It's honestly really impressive the way they reverse engineer so much of this content.
But it gets
incredible.
Even more complicated because eventually they run out of Metalder footage, so they have him change forms, and that's where the third show comes in. Because now he's suddenly a completely different character with a different look that needs to do something else. And it's always wild to watch it back and see what was taken from certain things and what was kind of had to be figured out. The last real attempt at this was Big Bad Beetleborgs, which was also another instance where like they just took the suit footage basically and then just created a whole American version of it.
Created a Jay Leno stand-in to tie it all together.
Yeah, but in that scenario, the 2 seasons of Beetleborgs were 2 later seasons of the same series that the VR Trooper stuff came from, called the Metal Hero series. But that one just got 2 seasons. But the problem they ran into with so much of the other stuff in Power Rangers was a yearly thing. So eventually, once they get to Zeo, they just start changing the suits and the Zords every season. And it worked out just fine. So America was kind of like a year behind Japan. Japan would do a series and then America would just adapt that to Power Rangers the next year. And that became the standard. And then starting with In Space to Lost Galaxy, they switched the cast every year. And so that was the kind of through In Space, people see as kind of the first, like a general arc of Power Rangers. And then after In Space is when it starts changing every season. But the problem is that Kamen Rider, especially, like at the time into the 80s and 90s, didn't have a regular show on the air. So there wasn't anything that you could keep pulling to do new series. And then Metal Hero runs out in like the late 90s, and it's sporadic throughout its existence. But it was just instances where they kept trying to create that magic of Power Rangers, and it just never quite hit the same.
Andrew, it's podcast time. Theme song.
We're not talking about the best of them. We're just talking about the rest of them.
Not the worst parts, but the best parts. And the best parts we have. The best of the rest.
Hello and welcome to Best of the Rest. My name is Chris Logan and I am joined, as always, by my Noid co-host, Andrew Williams. Say something to the listeners, Andrew.
Hello.
Each week, we take a second look at a movie that was poorly received upon release and challenge ourselves to only talk about the things we like and what the movie does well. It's Listener Demands Month, and this week, we are talking the 1992 film, Cool World. You demanded it, we watched it, we're here to talk about it. Andrew, what's your history with the movie Cool World?
None.
Yes, I knew the answer to this one because we were going through our listener submissions, which we'll talk about more as the month goes on. We got a lot of submissions. Thank you, everybody who submitted some movies. But this one popped out to me because it's something that I've wanted to visit just out of curiosity. I think it's a good fit for our show. It just made a lot of sense. So when it came through on the spreadsheet, thanks to actual mutual friend, Doug, thanks for submitting this. I threw this out there. And you're like, okay, let's do it. By the way, I don't know what the hell this is. And I did not hear about this growing up. when I was a youngin watching Power Rangers and this movie was released. I don't remember anything about it. I never remember this movie being marketed. I don't remember ever seeing the VHS at Blockbuster. No idea this movie exists until like early YouTube era. Think like nostalgia critic era of YouTube. I hear this movie talked about, this weird Roger Rabbit-esque movie that's just bonkers, and Brad Pitt is in it, and it just seems like a weird curiosity. And then jump forward another 20 years or whatever, and here we are. I finally watched it, and we get to talk about it. Cool world. So neither of us with a history of this movie. I mean, Andrew, now that you've seen it, like any bells rung? Like maybe I did hear about this. Nothing, right? Like
Nothing.
I don't know
Absolutely
how.
Nothing.
Again, like going back to Blockbuster, I feel like every '90s movie, hit, flop, whatever, like all the covers feel iconic to me just because I remember seeing them on the shelf. But nah, man,
Yeah.
not this one.
I couldn't tell you, like, this literally, like, as I'm watching this, like, and I even like was pulling up like clips on YouTube. Also, folks, this movie's free to watch on YouTube right now if you've never
Yes.
seen it before. It's so I just was like, you've got to like so I'm pulling up clips and I'm just like, man, I've got nothing. Like absolutely nothing. Nothing is ringing a bell. Nothing is coming to me. Nothing is happening. I truly have no. This is completely absent from my personal cultural lexicon or whatever. Like it's just not there.
And it's not like this was like something that was tried to, like the studio tried to bury it. They thought they had a flop on their hands. Like they put some muscle behind it. And I'm going to set the stage here with the release date, July 10th, 1992. I mean, this was set up to be like a summer hit movie. Family movie, I guess. They talk about it like this is supposed to be a family movie, but it does not play like a family movie. We'll get there. It's made on a budget of $28 million. Nothing to sneeze at in 1992. But at the box office, it only brought in $14.1 million. And it was panned by critics. Rotten Tomatoes, it holds a 4% critic score, based on 51 reviews. Audience score a little bit higher, because how could it not be? But it's 31%. I mean, this isn't. You could maybe call this a cult classic, but it. I think even that's a little generous.
Yeah, I feel like this is one of those instances where like there's definitely a dedicated fan base, but it is not leading to anything resembling a cultural reevaluation or anything of the sort. I don't even know if this thing is like in print right now as far as like a Blu-ray or a DVD goes.
There was
there's
a Blu-ray. Yeah.
There's a Blu-ray out there. It looks like it's a Shout Factory thing. Shout Select, so it is out there in the world. So that's good. But yeah, I really don't have anything to say about this, like from that perspective, just because it feels like somehow it just skipped like and don't get me wrong, I was what, 5 years old when this came out. This came out in July of 92, so I was about to turn 5. So, not exactly the kind of thing a 5-year-old is going to watch. But yeah, it's kind of wild that this thing kind of just like doesn't exist in a way. And
Yes.
then even from a fan perspective, just doesn't really factor in at all. I was curious. This is a very strange box office to look at, because I did look at it because I was curious. Because it's a budget of 28 million, only makes 14 million, so it's quite the flop. Like I said, 31% on Rotten Tomatoes from the fans, which means that even the people writing in, are they're coming in to say, yeah, this is not good, and that's like 50,000 plus ratings on Rotten Tomatoes too. So it's not like it's a small group of people. And even the 51 reviews for the Tomato Meter, that's not an insignificant amount of reviews. It is obviously an older movie, and things get much more reviews now. Like even Five Nights at Freddy's 2 just got like 200. So it's a decent group that's saying it's only 4%, but 4% is also just it's such an astoundingly low score. Is that the lowest movie we've ever reviewed?
Well, we
we
did
did
a
0%
0%
month,
month,
yeah, so,
but outside of that, I think it's likely. I think because like Fantastic is maybe 9%. I think that might be the lowest before today.
Yeah,
Not
that one
counting
is
0% month.
Yeah, that's 9%. Yeah, and
9,
so yeah,
it's over twice the score of Cool World.
So Cool World comes out July 10th, 1992. It debuts at number 6. Behind a variety of films that I find very interesting to look at. At number 1 in its second week of release, A League of Their Own.
Great movie.
Great movie. Number 2, making its debut for that weekend, Universal Soldier. I forget the first Universal Soldier is that old.
Yeah.
Because I know there's the one with Goldberg in it, but that's much, much later. At number 3 in its second week of release is Boomerang, the Eddie Murphy comedy film. And then at number 4, Batman Returns. And then at number 5 in its...
Wait, when did Batman Returns release?
Batman Returns came out June 18th, so it's in its fourth week of release. So
I always we covered the movie, and I know I said this on the episode, but like it's insane to me that movie doesn't release in November. Right? I mean,
it's a winter movie, so
yes, yeah. Like I put it on, like I'm in the mood right now to go watch it.
Watch Batman Returns, yeah. At number 5 in its 7th week of release, making $6 million, Sister Act.
Okay.
A movie had some legs. It is definitely a interesting tale of that movie. That movie was making almost $4 million in its like 10th week of release. It's kind of nuts. But then Cool World comes in at number 6. And the other things after it don't matter. But makes $5 million that opening weekend. Drops to number 10 the next weekend. And just doesn't really impress after that. But yeah, it's a weird thing. Like it's kind of one of those movies where like I really don't. We'll obviously talk more about this, but I don't know what the marketing was like. But I feel like this had to be a difficult thing to market. Like
1,000%.
who's it for? Like because obviously the animated piece of it you would think is going to speak to like people who like Roger Rabbit, but like this is not a movie for kids. Roger Rabbit, like kids can at least watch Who Framed Roger Rabbit, as like weird as that may sound.
Yeah,
I would not show Cool World to a kid. Like there's narrative.
I wouldn't show it to them, and I don't think they would be interested anyway.
Right.
I think, like
Roger Rabbit also benefits from like just obviously there's cultural awareness of who Roger Rabbit is now, but even within the movie there's like references and call outs and stuff, whereas this movie doesn't have that. But yeah, I don't know. I'm excited to talk about it because this movie is really just like a weird thing. But yeah, it comes out, makes beyond zero impact really, and has not really reappeared. And that, I'm not trying to be mean, but like that's what happened. The movie came out, disappeared very quickly, and has lived in that kind of cult dedicated fan base ever since, with no real reevaluation to come. So until now.
Let's take a look at the creative team and talk about the origins of this movie. Now, it has 2 credited writers, Michael Grays and Mark Victor. Now, these were a pair of screenwriters that were put onto the project after the pitch was bought by Paramount. And they had some heat at the time, mainly from Poltergeist, which obviously was a huge movie in the 80s. It looks like Larry Gross, another sort of journeyman screenwriter, did an uncredited rewrite. But the story starts with Ralph Bakshi, who is our director. Andrew, before we dive into Ralph, anything you want to cover with Michael and Mark here?
Yeah, nothing really of note here. Like I said, Mark Victor's biggest things is he co-wrote Poltergeist and Poltergeist 2: The Other Side, both of which with Michael Grace. Also, obviously, on the 1982 Poltergeist, it was co-written by a little gentleman named Steven Spielberg as well. Some unknown indie writer, I guess. But yeah, not a lot of credits otherwise. A lot of producer credits and stuff like that. Michael Grace was a writer on Kojak, Starsky and Hutch, Beretta, some television shows. Mark Victor, similar. So just like you said, these kind of interesting, like, journeyman screenwriters that have just kind of been around for a long time. Just seem like odd picks in a few ways, because it feels like this is such a thing that, like, obviously we'll talk about Bakshi here in a second, but this feels like it was such a big project for him personally. And so I'm kind of surprised that he doesn't really have any real piece on the writing side of it. Although I guess you could argue that he definitely does ultimately. But yeah.
So Ralph Bakshi, primarily known for his early films, his animated films, which are like early examples of adult animated features. Adult in that they dealt with adult themes, and there is some, like, sex and nudity or whatever. I'm just trying to say they're not like pornos. They're not animated pornos, but they're just adult films that happen to be animated. But they're like underground sort of counterculture stuff. I mean, Fritz the Cat and Heavy Traffic, I think, are the big two, but certainly not the only ones. He eventually makes his way to more fantasy stuff. He does the animated 1978 Lord of the Rings that some people might be familiar with, and then his film career kind of peters out. He finds some success in television in the 80s, namely with The New Adventures of Mighty Mouse, so he gets a little bit of juice back, and this is like his return to film. Even though he was never like a mainstream filmmaker, it's still, you read anything about the origin of this project, it's always talking about him coming back to film, like a long-awaited return to feature-length animated movies. And his pitch was for a horror movie about a human that travels to the cartoon world, has sex with a cartoon, impregnates her, returns back to Earth, and then his son, which is a cartoon human hybrid, travels to the real world to find and kill him. That's the premise. That's where we're starting out here before it gets reworked by the studio and the writers that they bring in. So we land a pretty far away from that initial pitch, but there's certainly some DNA still there. They sort of kind of tried to make it more family friendly and kids in some ways, but a lot of the adult atmosphere, I guess, is still here. Like, having sex with a cartoon is still a central plot point here. It's
in fact a major, like, hinge point for the plot. Like,
yes,
it is required to happen for the second half of this movie to take place, and it's wild.
There's got to be some people listening right now that have not watched this movie that are, maybe I'm getting to this point and they're like, what? Yeah, what? I know. It's what I like watching this. All I knew was like it was that other Roger Rabbit movie, or the bad Roger Rabbit movie, or the edgy Roger Rabbit. I've always kind of heard it in terms of being related to Roger Rabbit. So like I didn't know what the plot was. Obviously, it's like a human traveling the toon world of some kind. That's all I knew. You could have given me 100 chances to guess plot elements. I never would have landed where this movie actually goes.
Yeah, I never would have guessed either. Like, especially with the way the movie starts. Like, the way the movie starts is it's got this like weird, like, kind of almost direly serious intro about how Brad Pitt's character ends up in Cool World, and then it just devolves into this like madness. And I think that's the only real way to describe it, is madness, because that's what it is. I was not prepared when I turned this on. Like, obviously, like when I found out the guy who did this did Fritz the Cat and stuff like that. Yeah, you can see, you can definitely see the DNA. It is so interesting to me that like anything about this movie like talks about how like this is like a comeback for Ralph Bakshi, and it was after he did a Mighty Mouse cartoon in the late '80s, and that was, and of all the things to be like, you know, the comeback, it's a Mighty Mouse television show that like gets him back in favor to get $28 million to make a movie in 1992. And that's kind of insane to me. And
I mean, it's got to be because of Roger Rabbit, right? So you have this huge hit movie that is, like we've kind of talked about, it's not adult, but it's a more mature theme involving animation, right? And it's this live action cartoon hybrid. So like if you're gonna try to replicate that and you want to lean into like the adult nature, like I guess Bakshi makes sense for that, right? I mean, that's the only lens I can think of where they would be jazzed to like bring this guy in to do something like this.
yeah, like I mean, you look at this early, whether it's, you know, Fritz the Cat, Heavy Traffic, Wizards, Lord of the Rings. Like Lord of the Rings is probably, I would say, if there was something that he's most known for, if only because that probably had the widest net. Because I know obviously modern Lord of the Rings fans all ate really good after Peter Jackson at least did Lord of the Rings, The Hobbit less so. But before, like I remembered seeing Lord of the Rings. Like this is one of those things where you've probably seen Ralph Bakshi's work just because you've seen Lord of the Ring. And then stuff like Wizards is a trip. I was just looking to see if there's a Blu-ray for that in print. There is not. There's a lot of weird stuff out there that he's done, and yeah, like, and then you look at like his career even in the '60s into the '70s. Like he was he was a writer and a director on the late '60s Spider-Man show, and then eventually even does like. And he directs a television version of the Butter Battle book, which is Dr. Seuss's book about mutually assured destruction. But it is, folks. I'm not kidding. But it's kind of nuts to me that Mighty Mouse thing just gets this comeback. And I guess obviously, like you said, with a career like his in animation, if someone's going to do something like this, it makes sense for it to be him. But it's just very strange. Like my brain is still like not entirely wrapped around it because it feels like such a strange thing that, hey, you did a successful Mighty Mouse television show, so we're going to give you $30 million to make a movie kind of like Roger Rabbit, but not really. Yeah, wild.
Wild indeed, Andrew, and it's time that we just jump into it. It's time that we enter Cool World and talk about all the positives, everything we like, everything we enjoy about this crazy animated film.
I would like to not actually enter Cool World if possible. It looks terrifying.
Fair enough, Andrew. Are you ready?
Yeah.
After returning home from the war in 1945, Frank Harris is seemingly killed in a motorcycle accident. But as he laid on the ground dying, he was teleported into a world of living cartoons, or doodles, called Cool World. There, he takes a job in law enforcement. Fast forward to 1992, and Frank is suspicious of another human, or Noid, named Jack that begins visiting Cool World. Jack is being pulled into Cool World by a cartoon character he is famous for creating, the Marilyn Monroe-esque character, Holly Wood. After Holly successfully seduces and makes love to Jack, she is transformed into a Noid, and the two try to escape back to our world. Frank reluctantly returns to Earth to try and retrieve them before the fabric of the universe unravels. I think that's the plot. I think we were talking before I hit record about whether or not Frank actually died in the beginning there.
He does not. He does not die at the beginning. I don't know. Like he does not die at the beginning of this movie.
I don't feel strongly enough to die on a hill about this. I will just say you can at least agree with me here. Some aspects of this universe and how it works are a little ambiguous. Yes.
I mean, yeah, but he doesn't die.
Okay.
Like I can tell you
Okay.
that
You're
with
so
assurance. He
adamant
does
about
not-
that.
Like he literally is. He's literally going through PTSD after the wreck, like crawling through, and then he finds his dead mother and has a traumatic response to that. Like,
Okay,
yes,
so
and
here's how I read that. Let's just jump ahead to scenes and talk about that first scene.
All
He
right.
is having PTSD. He's crawling like he's back in the war. And then we cut away to the ambulance and the cops arriving. And then we see him again. He's on his back, eyes glazed over and trying to breathe. Like, in my opinion, him crawling around and stuff was all like in his head. And what was actually happening was he is lying on the ground dying. That's how I read that.
You're gonna tell me that I'm looking into things? Like that's literally not what happens on screen. He like crawls and finds his mother, and then like she's dead. So he has a traumatic response to that. Like,
I read it differently. I don't know what to tell you, Andrew.
Chris, it's
But
a movie. You don't read it. It's no, yeah. He's just literally, and then it's showing the weird bald doctor with the
Here's the
spike
thing.
talking
Here's
about
the
how
thing.
he's trying.
It,
Because the whole
it-
point is the doctor is trying to send himself into the real world and accidentally pulls Brad Pitt into our world. They literally show this on the screen. What are you talking about?
But once he's in Cool World, he is not injured whatsoever, and he's totally fine, and he lives for 60 years. Like, I think, you know what? It doesn't matter if he's dying or not. It literally doesn't matter. It has nothing to do with the plot. It's unaffected whether or not you believe he is about to die, on the verge of death, or not dying at all. Maybe he was fine. Andrew, I don't care. Let's talk about the cast of this movie. That's where we begin. By talking about the cast, and you know what we do. Every week we recognize one person who goes so far above and beyond the Call of Duty that they actually elevate the quality of the entire film with their performance, and we recognize that person by giving them the Mark Strong Award. So, Andrew, let's start there. Let us know who is getting your Mark Strong Award for Cool World.
I am going to be going with, I guess technically, is he the star of this movie? Technically, no. I guess Kim Basinger.
Kim
is technically
Basinger,
top billing.
Yes. It's wild to watch this movie. And, like, I knew this came out before Brad Pitt was a movie star, but, like, his name doesn't even hit before the title in the opening credits. He's one of the last names listed. Kim Basinger is the only one before the titles, and then Gabriel Byrne. And there might be one more person before Brad Pitt, or maybe Brad Pitt is next. But like you find any recent copies of this, or if you look it up on like
and they're
Voodoo or
hyping
whatever,
up. They're hyping up Brad.
his
Pitt,
face is
sure,
like
yeah.
90% of the cover now. Yeah, which was not the case
it's
in the
one of
original
those,
marketing, of course.
There's definitely movies like that where like someone in it gets famous later, so like all the reissues are just focused on like that person being in it. You're just
Jim
like,
Carrey has
but
like 3 of those. There's like Copper Mountain, and there's Space Girls are easy. I'm sure he's
Earth Girls are easy.
Space Girls. They should make
That
a
is
sequel.
have you ever seen that movie? Have you ever seen Earth Girls? Are Easy?
Parts of it. I've never like sat
It's
and watched the whole thing.
It's
I've
another
seen
one that's a
scenes.
trip. Like it's
Jeff Goldblum's
Gina
in there,
Davis, but the aliens are Jeff Goldblum, Damon Wayans, and Jim Carrey. And that it's Gina Davis, I think, is the other one. And it's just a weird trip of a thing. But for speaking of movies that are just wild. But anyway, all that said, I'm gonna go with a person who got billing above Brad Pitt, despite the fact that he's probably in the movie about the same time as Brad Pitt is. I'm going with Gabriel Byrne, who plays our character Jack Deebs, who is he believes himself to be the creator of Cool World. So he is a little confused. Like they kind of do it very strangely, where I guess the implication is his character has visions of Cool World, and then turns that into a comic book. But Cool World is an actual place that I guess he's just having visions of. And I guess the idea is that sometimes humans just cross into Cool World. Like the implication is that this is a thing that just happens sometimes. But because they make a whole big deal about Brad Pitt coming into Cool World, but then Gabriel Byrne just kind of like jumps back and forth.
I guess Brad Pitt comes in because of the spike.
Yeah, the spike brings him in.
But
But
he clearly, like, the first rule of Cool World is a Noi doesn't have sex with a Doodle. So clearly,
right, it's happened before.
there's enough humans coming here to have that rule. So,
It's like
but
it had to happen at least once for there to be a rule about it. But anyway, so Gabriel Byrne plays Jack Deeves. So he's an ex-convict. He gets out of prison. He was in jail for supposedly murdering his wife's lover. Did he do it? Who knows? But regardless, he served time for it. And as he's getting out, his visions of Cool World are kind of increasing.
this is like, sorry, this is a very stupid thing to have. This is like 2 years before Shawshank Redemption, but obviously this story existed already, and that's also a plot element in Shawshank. And this isn't adding anything. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Sorry for
all right,
you.
folks. Continuing on, but truly a waste of everyone's time. Chris, cut that out. But
I'm leaving it in. I gotta.
All right, fine.
I gotta show my ass sometimes.
I do it all the time. So for $9.99 on my OnlyFans, folks. But it's anyway.
Check our show notes for the link. Use promo code BOTR.
This is we're so funny they gave us our own show. But it's Gabriel Byrne's a great actor, and so this is a very interesting line that he has to ride that he has to line here. But
Nailed it.
because he's basically getting these visions of Cool World, and he's kind of not sure if they're real at first. Like he has one right before he gets out of prison, and then he starts having them again as he gets out of prison. He goes to this comic book store where he gets this giant stack of comics, and there's all this. I sent you a little clip of all the stuff on the wall that he just leaves hanging there like a chump. But like Batman the Cult, which if you guys have not read Batman the Cult,
Great
you
book.
should read Batman the Cult. It is fantastic. They just did a new deluxe hardcover of it a few months ago. It's very good. But then he gets sucked into Cool World, and the whole point here is that basically our lead, Kim Basinger's character, Hollywood, get it? But she's trying to seduce him with the intention of being able to leave Cool World and enter the real world and essentially take it over, I guess. But so she's trying to wear him down and eventually get him to succumb to her. I lost the words, but she's trying to seduce him. She eventually succeeds. But so he's in the real world and has whole scenes in the real one. Then he has these scenes interacting in the Cool World spots. And we'll talk more about it in scenes, but these Cool World sequences, like, there's just a really high level of craft that goes into these. It's kind of wild to me. That's kind of one of those things watching this back where I'm just kind of like, it's a lot of work that was put into these sequences, especially when the animated characters are kind of interacting with the live action characters. Because Roger Rabbit, correct me if I'm wrong, largely is just cartoon characters in a live action setting, essentially, right?
Correct.
It's not like a lot of, I know there are sequences that are fully animated, but it's largely animated characters in a live action setting. This takes this weird hybrid approach. There's definitely sequences that are fully animated, but then there's sequences where the animated characters are interacting with the live action characters, and they're creating this like weird two-dimensional effect. Like they're walking, like literally like the 3D character is like walking through a 2D set. And it's just very creative. And we'll talk more about it later. But Gabriel Byrne, I think, is riding this interesting line where he's kind of caught up in like this, like the haze of Cool World being this weird place definitely like overtakes him at times. And he eventually like assists Hollywood in being able to leave Cool World and enter the real world. And then eventually realizes he has to actually stop her from doing what she's trying to do. But I think he rides that line really well of like playing it serious in the sense that like he's definitely baffled by Cool World at first and like the zany nature of all these cartoons, which is probably one of the weirder things about this movie is like the tone feels like it's all over the place at times. But he still exists in all of those spaces, I think, pretty well, and adds a bit of heft to the proceedings, to being able to kind of ground what could also be seen as a very heady story at times. So for that regard, I'm going to go ahead and give him the Mark Strong. I think he's existing in I can't imagine trying like this has got to be so much like this has got to be even so much harder than like Bob Hoskins and Roger Rabbit. Like this has got to be such a strange performance to actually have to give because you're playing off of humans, but you're also having to play off cartoons, but you're also having to exist in these weird animated sets and then sometimes not. So you got to kind of do all things. And I think he does a really good job with it. So Mark Strong Award winner, Gabriel Byrne. I mean, he's a fantastic actor. I mean, he's been around for a long time.
Alum of the show,
He's
Andrew.
hold on.
From a movie with an inaccurate title, according to you.
Why am I not remembering this? What is it?
Ghost Ship.
Ah, Ship Full of Ghosts. Excellent.
There it is. Yeah, he's the captain of
excellent.
that salvage crew.
The ship is not a ghost. I'm sorry. Like it's wrong. If you want a ghost ship, it's the Titanic and Ghostbusters too. But he's been in all sorts of movies that I've liked. He's in Excalibur, John Borman's kind of take on the Arthurian legend, which just got announced as getting a 4K. I'm sure Zack Snyder is very jazzed. He's in a weird Michael Mann movie called The Keep, which comes out after Thief, but well before stuff like Manhunter and Heat. But and then I actually remember him probably a lot for End of Days, the Arnold movie where he basically plays the devil. I like on his Wikipedia, he's as End of Days, he's credited as the man/Satan.
Good credit to have in your resume.
That's I've got to call an album that sometime. That's a good album title.
That filmography is dense because like I recognized him and I'm like, well, I know I've seen him in a bunch of stuff, but like what do I know him from? What's really ringing the bell? And I opened that filmography, I'm like, I don't know. It could be 5 of these things, and maybe it's Ghost
Hereditary
because we watched it.
Probably for
more
recent people.
Dad.
Hereditary, Set on Fire. He's in Ballerina, the John Wick spinoff that just came out a few months ago. I remember watching that. It was fine. But yeah, I mean, like I said,
can you do a quick ranking for me of John Wick 1 through 4 and Ballerina?
1, 2, 3, 4, Ballerina.
Wow, I thought Ballerina might be above 4 for you because I know you weren't jazzed on 4.
Maybe it might be 1, 2, 3, Ballerina 4, but 1 is still to me the that might be a hot take, but like to me, I like John Wick 1 the most. I think
I have not seen 4. I kind of felt in general they were getting better as they went. But I think 2 or 3 has some of my favorite set pieces. The story I get farther and farther away from, but I don't know. Are we watching John Wick for the story? I don't know. But like that horse sequence, and 3 is the one that opens up with him fighting the basketball player, right?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
To me, like a lot of the that first one, also the thing that I like about it is that the first one is like 100 minutes. The first John Wick is like, it's lean, it's action-packed, the thing that I think I feel about John Wick is that the more it goes on and explains things, the less interested I am.
That's
like
true.
As it builds the world out more and more, and all the kind of idiosyncrasies and mysteries of the first film are just expanded upon more and more, I lose interest more and more. There are things about 4 I liked. Obviously, Donnie Yen's in it, basically playing like a modern version of Zatoichi, which is cool. I got no problem with Donnie Yen. I like seeing him do things. I'm less jazzed on the fact that there is an extended sequence where he climbs up a flight of stairs just to get knocked all the way back down and then has to climb back up the set of stairs. It's kind of like how the finale of X-Men Apocalypse is the X-Men trying to cross a street. But it's
it really is.
Again, that's not that's to me, that's just what the movies are. But to me, I rewatched 1 like a couple of months ago, and I was just like, man, this is great. Like, this is just genuinely, it's lean. The story is, you can call it thin, but it's it's efficient. It knows exactly what to do. It gives you just enough information that, like, you know how bad of a dude John Wick is. You know that he's not to be messed with. The set pieces are all great. And I love it for that reason. Like, it's just a very, very lean, unique, strong piece of filmmaking that just deservedly revitalized Keanu Reeves' career. Not that it, necessarily needed revitalization, but put him back on the map in a big way. Now, 2, 3, and then in turn 4. Like, 4 is like almost 3 hours long, I feel like. And I'm just like, there's no reason for this. Like, there's just no reason for a John Wick movie to be 3 hours. And I realize that I am the minority there. Like, there are people who are like, they could make these movies 5 hours for all I care. Is John Wick 4 that long? I don't feel like it is. I don't feel like I'm losing my mind here. But to me, we're just kind of, the returns started to diminish, but I realize John Wick 4 is 169 minutes. Nice. But that's 10 minutes shy of 3 hours. And so
Jesus
you're
Christ.
looking at 2 hours 50 for John Wick 4. And it's just kind of it to me. And there's a little bit of a piece of, one of the things that my dad kind of bemoans about certain characters is how they become untouchable. That the storytelling loses a little bit just because you really know nothing is ever going to happen to this character. And so it's up to the filmmakers to craft a story where, like, it's believable. But, like, for me, John Wick 4 is at a point where so not just is John Wick 4 super long, you just know that nothing's going to happen to Keanu Reeves until the end of that movie at bare minimum. So, like, there's so many sequences where I'm like, this is kind of cool, but, like, I kind of want to get to the point. And I realize, again, I'm in the minority for that. So for me, that's my hot take, is that John Wick 1 is the best John Wick.
Andrew, I agree. Gabriel Byrne also gets my Mark Strong Award for Cool World.
Back to the point.
I just love his vibes, man. I am, I love me some 90s culture. I've talked about it plenty on mic, but I just give me some grungy music, some dark cinematography and a city type filmmaking. Give me some tortured artists, and I'm into it. And Gabriel Byrne's character Jack here is very much that underground comic book artist vibe, whether it's like The Crow or Jamie Hewitt, or who I said The Crow because I don't know the artist name on that, but that
James O'Barr.
Very nice, Andrew. Of course you would know that. I think he nails that vibe. I think it's interesting. He starts off in prison. There's one like throwaway line that explains why he's in prison, and then
it's never followed up on, is it?
It's
like,
not.
They never bring it back up. Like,
I don't know.
Back up. Like,
it's very strange, but it's just like there's something under the surface with this guy. This guy is capable of violence. He can't be trusted. He's also the backstory is, I can't remember if we said it on mic earlier or not, that you said it. He possibly killed his wife's lover, and so it's like he's capable of violence, but also we can be maybe sympathetic towards him. He kind of lives in that gray, and the climax of this movie is him deciding whether or not he's going to be the hero or the villain. There's some interesting shades there, but he's just a tortured black-haired artist from the 90s, and I'm all about that. I love it.
Yeah, it's quite the vibe, and he embodies it perfectly. Like, if you told me this dude was Alan Moore, I probably would have believed you.
Now, obviously, Brad Pitt is the big name today, and the reason most people, I would guess, are going back to revisit this movie is because Brad Pitt blows up, and he did this weird thing early in his career that was Roger Rabbit-esque. I don't have too much to say about his performance here. I mean, he's playing a noir-esque detective in Cool World, and he definitely, his character comes from the 40s, so he fits right into that. He's got that classic 90s Brad Pitt hair that just kind of works in any era. But Brad Pitt overall, like I have like two things to say about this guy. One is that it's so obvious, even when you go back to like young performances, you see him on screen and you're like, yeah, that's a movie star. Like this is a person that was made to be on film because it's not just about like being attractive. Like there's something else beyond that where you just look right in the camera. You just look different and unique. And you know, being attractive is part of it, but it's something else. Like he's just made in a lab to be a movie star. I also think along with this the unique way he looks, I think he's a fantastic actor. I love a ton of his performances and I think he makes great choices. I on screen. Earlier this year, I think I finally watched Thelma and Louise. I think I talked about that in one episode. And that's another early performance. You're like, yeah, this guy is about to like blow up. And you know, a few years after this, he had his interview, The Vampire, which is just fantastic. Fight Club, you know, it's Brad Pitt. I don't need to rattle off a bunch of movies of his that I like, but that's Brad Pitt, the performer. And of course, the other big thing to say about Brad Pitt in the year 2025 is that like there's a not insignificant number of stories that he kind of sucks and is abusive to people in his life in a pretty serious and traumatic way, and has used his influence in the media to try to silence people that would speak ill of him. And that's that sucks. And those are the two things I had to say about Brad Pitt.
I have nothing additional to add. It's like you said, the career speaks for itself, and the rest of it also speaks for itself. It is unfortunate that there was a way somebody put it in the aftermath of all of it, and I think it is unfortunately all too true. It was after F1 came out, which I saw F1. It was very good. And somebody wrote an article, I think that was published in Vulture. I forget exactly who. But she kind of criticized because she saw F1. F1 was kind of the culmination of his like rehabilitation tour of like, now he's better, now he's good, and here's a great critically acclaimed movie that's going to prove it. And she just said, it isn't that people don't believe what happened between him and Angelina Jolie. It's just that they don't care. And that is unfortunately the reality in a great many of these things. It's not that people don't know. It's just that they don't care. It's like you look at like how many, like Mel Gibson. Mel Gibson is a great example. Like, you know, and I'm not trying to put anybody out there, but Mel Gibson did some horrid stuff. But there are people who are like, oh man, Mel Gibson. It's 'cause they just don't
like
care.
Quentin Tarantino. Like in that same podcast where, you know, there's all these memes about him throwing Paul Dano under the bus for no reason.
And Matthew
also,
Lillard and Owen Wilson, like holy hell, like what
went out of
that
his
guy
way to
out?
like praise Mel Gibson, and he didn't want to watch Fury Road because Mel wasn't in it. It's not Mad Max without Mel. Give me Mel. Give me Mad Mel. And it's like, my dude. And Quentin Tarantino, also the writer and director of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, starring Brad Pitt as the hero that maybe killed his wife. I don't know, but he's a real stunt man and he's cool, dude. And
he can beat up Bruce Lee.
he can beat up Bruce Lee, and he knows
And
you have to ask and see an ID from a woman because they will lie about their age, and you have to you have to go out of your way. Everyone's trying to set you up and make you look bad, and you have to like physically see ID. That's his anyway. A lot of red flags. And
and then like, what's the finale of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood?
Leonardo DiCaprio lighting the guy on fire. That was the finale for me.
It is Leonardo DiCaprio and Brad Pitt stopping Sharon Tate from getting murdered.
Yeah.
And Sharon Tate at the time was dating a gentleman named Roman Polanski, who is a character in the movie. And he has also spoken out quite heavily on his support for Roman Polanski. You know, this guy kind of sucks. But like it's just like it's a lot of flags there, man. It's starting to look like Russia over there. But I don't know. It's one of those things where like I know there are people who can separate the art from the artist, and especially when it comes to film, because film is a collaborative medium. It's there are a lot of people who do not want to throw a whole movie out because there's one problematic person in it, and I'm not going to fault them for not doing that. Obviously, to me, there are levels to things, and but yeah, there, you know, I don't have any idea, like what's his face, um God, why am I blanking on his name? Daniel Day-Lewis. Like Daniel Day-Lewis came out in support of Paul Dano after Tarantino said what he said. And it's like, dude, I don't know that there is a man alive who united people as much as Tarantino did when he decided to say Paul Dano sucks. Like it's like everybody was just like, wait, what? And then he went after Matthew Lillard too. And he's like, I don't care for Matthew Lillard. It's like, first off, why are you taking strays at all these people? Like, what is the reasoning for this? And then he also went after Owen Wilson. And it's like, dude, like Owen Wilson was so depressed at one point he tried to kill himself. Like, what is your deal, man? Like, who? Like, honestly, it kind of destroys the man for me in a way where I'm just like, what are you doing? Like, what is the point here? Outside trying to look like film snob extraordinaire, which maybe that's his only point, or maybe he just doesn't care. I don't know. Like, it's the kind of thing where it's like Matthew Lillard is like universally loved by like everyone that's ever worked with him and all the fans that he's ever met. No bad stories about the man that exist. Paul Dano has been in plenty of critically acclaimed things. Owen Wilson as well. Like, I don't know what he's getting at. It's like, you're the guy that canceled your 10th movie because you realized it sucked. Like, get out of here. Anyway, Brad Pitt is in this movie and he's fine.
Kim Basinger is above the title. And I mean, look, I like this performance because what do we say? She's doing what's asked of her, right? I mean, like, voice this sex pot character, which she's got a nice breathy voice for doing that. And then once she turns into annoyed and she's physically paid by Kim Basinger, she looks the part. And I really like that part. I like whenever she is annoyed in the real world and she's fascinated because she's experiencing everything for the first time, and she's it's kind of like, what am I thinking of? Maybe it's like Splash, like she or like Little Mermaid. I don't know why I'm only thinking of mermaids that turn into humans, but like she's in our world for the first time and it's fascinated by every little thing and says silly stuff, and it's funny and it's a cute little performance. But juxtapose that silly slapstick with like the overt sexuality of this character, and it's just well, Andrew, it's a heck of a thing. But Kim Basinger in 1992, I mean, you're getting, you need to hire somebody to play a character like this. They hit the jackpot, Andrew. I feel like I have what are my notes here? I feel like I can say this because the movie is so explicit about it. My note just says dim nips, though, because like
they show them a lot.
They
don't show them a lot. They apply them a lot.
Yes, yes. I mean, everything that she wears, she is poking through, both animated and live action. What a performance, Andrew.
Yeah, it's amazing that in one summer you had Kim Basinger as Hollywood and Michelle Pfeiffer's as Catwoman in theaters at the same time.
Yeah, you're right. Good point.
That's a summer of awakening for a great many people of both genders, to be very clear, of all genders, to be more inclusive. Like, you can't. It's happening for everybody at that point. But no, it's a really good thing. So obviously, there's this. She's trying to seduce Gabriel Byrne's character and is So there's this obviously malicious edge where she has her own means, and so she's very good at that femme fatale part of it. But then there's this like weird, like childlike curiosity that enters the point where she enters the real world, where, like you said, everything is interesting and everything is kind of new. And she does it all really well. And yeah, it's Kim Basinger. Like, this is 3 years after Batman. So I mean, this is her at the peak of her powers, basically. And the movie is all the better for it. And yeah, dem nips though.
And that's kind of like our main players. I mean, there's an extensive voice cast, but like there's not too many, I don't know, main character level animated characters. There's Deidre O'Connell, who plays Jack's neighbor, who feels like she was maybe a major character in a different version of the script. She comes into the movie super late, just kind of comes over like, "Hey, I'm your neighbor, just checking on you," and then she's like integral to the finale of this movie, and then literally at the end, just walks off screen. There's a shot of her just walking off screen, and then we never see her again. It's very, very weird. I do like that performance, but there's not much. You know, it's hardly in the movie. But I think we can just talk about this movie, Andrew. Let's just talk about the scenes of this film and all of its wacky glory. And let's start with, I don't know, the best scene of the movie, Andrew, or at least our personal favorite. So, in your opinion, when is this movie firing on all cylinders? What is the best scene in Cool World?
It's a tough thing because the whole movie is this weird exercise in like, it's just a weird exercise. I can just leave it at that. I kind of guess I got to go with the finale, just because that's when like it really does like just explode. Like all the different factors of the movie kind of just implode on each other. And this is where Kim Basinger is basically she wants to use this kind of MacGuffin that's become known as the what is the name? What is the name of the thing they're using? The spike. The spike, yeah. And so she wants to use the spike basically to take over the world, destroy the world. What is it exactly she's trying to do with the spike again?
Andrew, don't ask me specifics about the plot. It's going to permanently make her annoyed, I think, but how exactly? I don't know. I don't know the rules to this thing.
Anyway, so Frank, all of them figure out what's happening. They get back to the real world. So our finale takes place in the real world, where Frank and Jack kind of reluctantly have to team up to stop Holly, because at this point, Jack is kind of over it. Like, he's kind of done with Holly. He's just not that into you. And Frank obviously wants to stop this from happening. But she seizes the spike, so she releases this like this torrent of monstrous doodles, like almost like Gerald Scarf Wall-esque animations at times, like just really like dark, kind of gross stuff, like very strange, like these screaming faces of all different types. But what it also does is it transforms Jack into like Superman. It's such a weird,
the most
like, the movie just like
stereotypical.
Like he looks like the champion from The Tick, but but so we're getting this whole thing, and what also ends up happening here is that in the chaos, Frank gets shoved off the roof and like crashes down to the ground and dies. Like, just
does he die here, Andrew?
Yes, he does, because that's a whole point that they make a point of explaining later.
I know.
Don't you come to me with this, man. I did my research. I watched the movie. And so Holly is trying to like entice Jack into helping her, but he eventually returns the spike to its rightful place, which kind of resets it. But just the sheer scale of the animation that they go through here, the scope, the kind of invasion of the animation into the real world. There's just a lot of ambition here. Clearly a lot of effort and craft went into this, and I'll speak to more scenes like this, more especially about the Cool World stuff, but just to go out that wild, like it's just the fact that this is the finale of a movie that was released in theaters is just kind of wild to me because it's very ambitious. It takes some wild turns, and it I can't help but be to respect the craft that's on display here as far as putting this finale together. You basically got Jack as Superman battling all of these monsters while Holly is trying to essentially, like I said, the intention is for her to stay in her noid form, as they call it. I guess humanoid. It's just condensed. But and then
And Frank wants her to avoid the Noid. Was that not funny? I don't understand. You're not laughing.
Anyway, the finale of this movie is getting my pick for the best scene. Like I said, there's just a lot of craft, a lot of interest here. What's interesting to me, though, is that Gabriel Byrne, I guess, does not voice his cartoon form. I do want to call out here one of our litany of voice actors that appear throughout this movie. Is a gentleman named Maurice LaMarche, who is a very prolific animation voice. Probably known primarily by most as Brain on the Animaniacs, which is really just him doing an Orson Welles voice. But he was also Egon on The Real Ghostbusters and Extreme Ghostbusters. He was Alec Baldwin in Team America World Police. He was Chief Quimby in Inspector Gadget. He's Calculon on Futurama, one of my favorite minor characters on all of Futurama. But he's just his career speaks for itself. Maybe not a Frank Welker, but he's up there. Frank Welker being the voice of Ray on The Real Ghostbusters. But he's just a tremendous talent. And so it was nice to see him. He plays several characters, actually. He also plays Dr. Doc Whiskers, who's the guy who brings Brad Pitt into Cool World and then reappears in the finale. He also plays a bunch of other characters within Cool World, but it's just cool to see actual voice actor. Like if this movie were made today, you definitely know that they wouldn't be relying on like veteran voice actors to do a lot of this stuff. They would be trying to punch it up with celebrity cameos and stuff like that. But I just like seeing Maurice LaMarche. He's just a super big, talented guy. But he plays Super Jack, the doodle form of Jack. But yeah, it's just a trippy finale, and it's insane, and it's over the top, and yeah, all the more power to everybody involved for pulling it off. But it is an ambitious piece of storytelling, so I have to give it its props here.
The Noid, Andrew, like Domino's Pizza from the 90s? Avoid the Noid was the marketing slogan. That's what I was... You didn't seem like you got it, so I want to make sure that you understood.
Chris.
The reference doesn't make an Andrew.
Chris. I know. I was alive. I was there.
It's a bonkers finale, Andrew. It's the only way you can describe it. Like
it
just goes all out.
It's like 20 minutes. Like
it is an extended sequence. My daughter came home from school and I was finishing this movie. She came home during the finale and she's like putting her backpack down and she kind of watches it for a couple of minutes. And at some point, like Hollywood calls Super Jack a pencil dick, and I'm like, it was like an edgy Roger Rabbit movie they did. She's like, and then she just left. So that's her entire impression of this movie. Yeah, I mean, they really just I have such mixed feelings about the animated sequences and animated characters throughout this movie. They seem to be from different... The tone's all over the place. The animation quality is all over the place. Some stuff... We'll watch an extended animated sequence or animated characters interact for a while that just has nothing to do with the plot. It's just like this little thing thrown in. It's a mixed bag. But I feel like this finale, as bonkers as it is, kind of pulls it all together. And as best as this movie can, I guess. And you've got that crazy, because like the it's hard to even describe what happens here. One, because it's so bonkers. Two, because I don't quite understand. But like the spike explodes animation to our world. It turns like people into cartoons. So we're seeing a fully animated sequence, but like it's our world. And like the background is like this red and yellow spiral for a lot of it. It's a significant amount of the budget, I imagine, going towards this wild animated chase finale, Andrew. So it's a good pick. It's certainly the best animated sequence of the movie. But for my favorite scene, I'm gonna go with literally the exact opposite of you, Andrew. The finale of this movie is getting your pick for best scene. I'm gonna go to the very, very beginning. After the opening credits, which is literally just names on a black screen, we just watched like this short film. We see this man getting off of a military aircraft. He's coming home from the war. It's young Brad Pitt. He embraces his mom. They go back to their quaint little house out in rural America somewhere. He shows her the Indian motorcycle that he got. She tells him that he needs to be careful on it. He says that he will. And he insists that he takes her out for a ride. And they have this beautiful drive down the country highway, wind in their hair, his mom on the back of the motorcycle. And then we see a young couple leaving a bar, clearly inebriated. I mean, like the most over-the-top drunk driving I've maybe ever seen in a movie. They still have a bottle of beer in their hand. She's making out with. She's all over him, up in his lap while he's trying to drive. The door opens at one point. He's got to close it while they're driving. They're swerving all over the road. You know what's gonna happen here. They pull onto the highway. Right in front of the motorcycle, there's a big collision. All shot with like an implied accident. There's never a stunt driver driving a motorcycle into a car, but you see the accident about to happen. Then you see the motorcycle fly through the air and Brad Pitt. And he comes to on the side of the road, laying in the dirt. And he is back at war. He's hearing gunfire. And he starts army crawling as if he is right back in the war. PTSD obviously kicking in. He's been hit pretty hard. And he comes across his mom, who clearly did not survive the accident. He holds her and he starts screaming for a medic, which is I found this opening very effective. I thought it was very touching. I thought it was a artistic and interesting way to like show this soldier like dealing with loss and immediately following the war, and he's obviously still dealing with the way that the war affected him, and now he's lost his mom, and it's very I found it very effective. And then there's the most comical hard cut to a fully animated sequence with that little doctor saying, "Oh, I guess the spike worked." In the middle of this super emotional Brad Pitt crying his ass off scene. I don't know if that was supposed to get a laugh, but the turn there was quite dramatic. I'm not including that turn as part of my favorite scene. I genuinely just love the opening of this movie. I thought it was shot really well. It tells a complete story, if albeit a very tragic one. Again, the way that he finds his dying mom and calls for a medic because he's still having his flashback, I think is just heartbreaking on multiple levels, and it's all really well done. The shots of them like driving down the hallway. The shots of them like driving down the highway are beautiful. Like there's like some shots where like it's on the front of the motorcycle where the camera's like panning. So I don't know. It must be the rig isn't on the motorcycle itself. It must be the trailer in front of him, but like they get some beautiful shots of him driving the motorcycle. It tells a nice little story. It's completely disconnected from everything else we will see after this. All you really need to know is that Brad Pitt's character is from the 40s, and I guess because he lost his mom, that's why he doesn't want to go back to Earth. I guess that's all we're trying to inform about the character. But it's good. It's well done, and it sounds so backhanded to say it's the best scene in the movie. There's a lot of elements I like about this movie later on, but as far as a complete sequence, I think this is the most coherent. Hashtag PP.
I agree. I think it is. I think it's a really good. It's very effective at setting up this character. Like, it's another thing that just like never really comes back. Like, the PTSD experiences here, all of that just never really reinforms anything. It's just interesting that they set up all these interesting backstories for these characters and then just don't seem to really do anything with them. Like,
Yeah.
it's true. Like, we just said that for Gabriel Byrne's character as well. Like, he's got this weird ripple of like, oh, maybe he killed his wife's lover so much so he went to jail for it, but like, maybe not. Like, we don't like. There's almost this implication that like he didn't do it, but then like it doesn't really go anywhere, and it's so strange. But this opening sequence, and also it feels like it's like 3 PM. Like, it just feels like it's so like it's bright during the day, and there's this couple out there just like that's hammered at a bar and just driving around. This is Vegas, actually. I think it's all set in Las Vegas.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's very comical drunk driving, but just like the moments of like finally coming back from war and then feeling like you're back in it to being sucked into the cartoon world. It's a very rapid sequence of events at the end, but I think it's a good pick. Like, it feels a little backhanded picking the first scene, but it is another instance. It reminds me a little bit of like, you know, it almost feels like it's from a different movie in some ways until the animated characters show up. Like, but like it's a little bit like the beginning of Halloween Ends, where you get this kind of weird like mini short film with like this new character they introduced that culminates in kind of this shocking ending, and then that movie at least that references that and it comes back and they make callbacks to it. But it just feels like it's this own kind of unique start to finish short film at the beginning of this longer piece. But I think this is a good call out.
So Brad Pitt enters Cool World after this, and we're kind of just off to the races here. Shortly after this, Frank visits Cool World for the first time, pulled in somehow. I don't think it's ever explained how Frank's going back and forth, but Holly seems to be the one beckoning him or pulling him into it. So Frank, being a detective that's supposed to keep an eye on things and make sure Noids and Doodles don't doodle, goes to investigate Holly or ask her questions or to make sure that everything's on the up and up there. And he visits her at her penthouse. And this is like the first big scene we have of a human interacting in this animated world. And going back to your point earlier, like, it took me a while to realize what was happening. Because at first I thought maybe I was seeing live action Brad Pitt in a fully animated world. But then it didn't seem to be the case. Like, sometimes Holly looked like she was the one being put into like a live action thing. And what they do for the most part is that Brad Pitt is on a set, but the set is made of drawn props. So like the couch in her penthouse is a big cardboard flat couch. So like it's being shot with a live action camera, but it looks like he's in an animated world. On top of that, there's animated characters like Holly. So it's almost like 3 layers to this thing. It's a really cool idea. I think it works like 90% of the time. There's some weird stuff like Frank drives his car, his real live action car in Cool World, but as soon as he gets out of it, it like snaps into a flat cardboard car. It's very bizarre. I don't know exactly what that's supposed to mean, but I like it from a visual standpoint, and it's this sort of set design they do that really separates this from Who Framed Roger Rabbit. I mean, the comparisons were going to be inevitable. I think they knew that, but it's doing something different in this instance with the way it approaches an animated world.
Yeah, and yeah, I agree, and that's kind of what I was getting at earlier with like I said, the way they approach this is that it's an animated world, but they create these kind of 2 distinct versions of it in a way where there's like the cartoons just interfacing and doing cartoon stuff. But even then, like, you have the forefront animation, and then you have these like matte painting backgrounds, and then like you were talking about, just the way they allow the live action characters to interact. They create these like 2D setups almost, and so that they're interfacing with a physical item, but they're creating it in such a way that it fits in with like what would be a drawn world. Like I said, contrasted to um the like a Roger Rabbit, where we're not really trying to create a animated world in the same sense. But it's just an interesting level of attention. There's just obviously a high level of attention to detail that goes into that with creating a world like this and putting in the effort to kind of figure out what that appears as. And it's just very interesting. Like, it's just, to visualize, say what you will about the final product at the end of the day. I think the craft and the just the creativity to look at that situation and try to create that many different layers of it. There's something to be said for that, which is just interesting because, like you said, I can't think of any other movie that looks like this. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I actually mean it in quite a good way. Like, Roger Rabbit doesn't look like this. And that's not to say that Roger Rabbit isn't fantastic. It is. But obviously they're trying to do very different things at the end of the day as well. But yeah, it's just a trip. Like, it's just a weird thing to watch back of just like, oh, like, we really, like, there was a high level of detail that Bakshi put into this to create, in his mind, that multi-layered animated presentation. And
there's a part where Jack goes back to Cool World, I think maybe the second time, where he's like in the street and he's convinced he's dreaming, but he's not. And he runs into some characters on the street. And like the set is like a street lamp, almost making like a spotlight and like a real street. But then there's like, again, like a 2D cardboard, like trash can stuff in the alley. And it's like a really nice, really high budget, well done high school play set.
yeah,
right? Like it's how you would set up like a stage play. But you add in the animated characters and it kind of just sells it all and brings it to life in a very weird, interesting way. That I like. What I wasn't as like #PP. Going back to that penthouse scene, it's got this cool, again, like 2D real world set. Holly's animated. And then there's like all these random nonsense characters just running across the bottom of the screen sometimes that I can't tell if they're supposed to be in the scene or just playing on top of the TV. It was very bizarre. And no one like acknowledged that they were there. And I gotta say, besides the fact that they're so disconnected from the plot, one thing that Roger Rabbit had going for it that this does not is licensed characters. Every animated character in Roger Rabbit, for the most part, either we knew who that character was, what world they're from, or they were an obvious stand-in for something. And that just, you have this immediate buy-in and familiarity with the animated characters. Cool World, these are all original characters, and they sometimes, like, whenever she's performing at the club, there's just a ton of, like, Tex Avery wolves looking at her, and like we it's not Tex Avery wolf TM trademark whatever, but we know what that's a stand-in for. It's the wolves like in zoot suits. But other than that, they're mostly just original weird looking characters that we don't know their history, but they come on screen, they do something wacky, and it just doesn't have the same punch as Roger Rabbit with its licensed characters and Looney Tunes style callbacks, and that just that goes a long way in Roger Rabbit.
It does. I was actually just reading an article about how in Roger Rabbit, Betty Boop is voiced by, I believe it's Mae Castell, and she actually voiced Betty Boop in the 30s and like 31 to 39, and then actually returned to do Betty Boop and Roger Rabbit, which I just think is one of those things that's like needlessly cool, where it's like, you didn't need to do that, but it's pretty cool that you did. We'll ignore that a lot of the other Betty Boops weren't alive at that point. But May Castell is probably known by more recent audiences for being Aunt Bethany in National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation, which was the year after Roger Rabbit. But I think that's a big piece of it is that licensed aspect. Obviously there's characters that are trying to like create a sense of familiarity. There's obviously like the lead character. I'm obviously like, am I supposed to be thinking of like heavy metal when I watch this? But at the same time, like I think it's more supposed to be looking back towards the things from Bakshi's early career. And it is interesting. Like I said, there is a high level of craft here. But they are working within certain limitations of obviously these are all original characters. There's a moment where like a black and white Snoopy-esque looking mouse, Mickey Mouse maybe thing is like dancing around in the forefront. That's kind of like, I don't mean this too backhandedly, but a lot of those moments reminded me of like the special edition of Star Wars, where there's just so much packed into the scene that the scene almost feels like it's choking itself. Like,
I mean, apparently Bakshi, like, there was a very tumultuous production because he wanted to keep it closer to his original vision, and he felt like he was being pushed to change things, make it more family friendly, and he would apparently allow his animators to do whatever they wanted in that world, which is a bonkers way to do an animated film. I know this is a hybrid, but animation is typically all meticulously planned before you even, anybody's putting a pencil to the paper. But it kind of makes sense when you see some of these scenes play out, and then there's just random wacky stuff happening.
Nonsense, yeah.
Disconnected. Like, it's just people like, hey, this is the animated world, this is the vibe, give me something. And like there's this whole sequence with like a rabbit that's again very clearly like a Disney style rabbit, very cutesy, almost like Thumper from Bambi style rabbit that's in the mean streets of Cool World, and like he's getting hustled by some of the goons, and like none of this means anything, and none of these aren't characters. This is just a weird sequence and on the streets of Cool World. It's a heck of a thing, Andrew. I feel myself coming back to that.
It's a statement. Like there's a sequence that I have clips of the movie on my computer here, and it's the sequence when Frank is at Hollywood's apartment, and she's trying to seduce him first, and I think she's trying to use him for her goals, but he doesn't go for it. So as she's walking back into her apartment, this random blue cat pops up in the forefront that gets hit in the head with a brick, then gets hit in the head with an anvil, then gets hit in the head with a horseshoe, then gets hit in the head with a boot, then gets hit in the head with a moose head, that then gets hit in the head with some other thing at the end of it. And it's this like 4-second sequence where this cat just repeatedly gets hit in the head by a variety of heavier things. And you're just like, why is this here? Like, what is going on? Like, why is this happening? Like, is this stuff all in her apartment that is just there? Like, what is this?
Does she just have little critters running around her apartment at all times? I don't understand.
He looks behind her couch at one point, and there's 3 mice gambling, and it's like, gotta call like an exterminator or something. This is ridiculous. Like, come on. Like at one point she's looking at like a picture of Las Vegas, and this knife gets thrown into the wall that has a mouse hanging off of it, and you're just like, what is this? And so there's this and I guess the problem to an extent is that the conversation they're having is not silly. It's a relatively serious conversation. And so when it's punctuated with all of these weird, like, sight gags, I don't know what I'm supposed to think. Like, there's moments where, like, a giant dog head just, like, floats across the screen. It's almost like a translucent, like, it's like they've got the, like, it's opaque. And it's just like, I don't quite know what's happening here. I don't quite know how I'm supposed to be processing all of this. And it makes certain sequences feel kind of cluttered, I guess is the way I put it. That's how I describe the special edition. I'd say that there's definitely scenes that feel cluttered. And I'd say this is similar, where like there's just so much going on in some of these that I don't quite know how I'm supposed to take it. It's weird.
That's
It's a heck of
exactly.
a
I don't
thing.
know. I don't know how I'm supposed to feel about those little characters at the front of the screen. Like, am I supposed to laugh at them, be distracted by them, be like, I don't know what purpose
Like right
they're
now,
serving there.
just happened. It's a sequence at her apartment. This is probably one of the most biggest offenses of it. She's literally trying to seduce Brad Pitt throughout this sequence. And there's a sequence of like this group of people all running back and forth that goes through several times. It's the
And then
same
they, like,
animation.
They even like blip out before they even run off the end of the screen.
Right.
Like they runs
And
out of
then-
animation before
And
they
then
run out of
right
frames.
after that, a plane flies towards the screen while she's literally having a conversation about how she wants to feel the sensations that humans feel. And I'm just like,
and then she rubs the corner of the wall in between her breasts.
why wouldn't you?
And then falls back falls back on her bed with the legs spread. I remember that scene pretty well, Andrew. You don't have to walk me through it. The central conflict of this movie, Frank says it very explicitly. Noids do not have sex with doodles. It's the oldest law in Cool World. Frank himself has a girlfriend. That is a doodle that clearly wants to have sex with him. And he has to stop himself. They'll be kissing and making him out. He's like, no, I can't. I don't want to do that because we can never finish. Literally the word he says. And he also says, I'm like a plug without a socket, you know? Wild.
Such
But
a strange, horny movie. Like
they never
that's
say
really all it
why
is.
that's a law. And I don't even know if Frank knows why it's a law. But eventually, Holly seduces Jack and takes his clothes off. And we have a sex scene between a person and a doodle. Now, once things start to get going, we only see Holly. We just see her from like the waist up. But she's cowgirling Frank in bed. And there's
Not Frank.
damn it, cowgirling Jack in bed, and then like
Jesus
her.
Christ.
Can't believe I had to say.
I
it
just
like
I
twice
just
now.
wanted to make you say that again. I knew I was like, oh, you got that wrong. You got to power through that one more time.
her little like goons or whatever are like outside the window, like
Trying
peeking
to
in.
watch.
And then whenever she climaxes, there's a literal explosion that knocks them down. Like nothing subtle is happening here.
No.
And in the aftermath, she's catching her breath. She slowly transforms into Noid, into live action Kim Basinger. And then
Who's
there's
now
this
who, to be very clear, she's now naked for some reason. Because they have a whole thing that she gets clothes put on her, and it's like,
yes, we
Okay.
follow this like nightgown coming through the air that slides over her and slides over. It focuses on her nipples. Here, I don't know what else to say. I don't know
What am I
what to tell
trying
you.
to
Go
say?
watch
Nipple?
the movie. If I sound like I'm being horny,
you sound like Clark Griswold in that scene from Christmas Vacation where he keeps trying to not say nipple, like, and he's like, it's a bit nipply out. I mean, nippy. I mean, what am I trying to say? Nipple? Like, you sound like that right now.
well, there's no way to like imply what they're doing here. It's just
No,
like
it's not
flat.
at
Like,
all, but
go watch the movie if you haven't.
It's free on YouTube, folks. Yeah. Oh
It's
my
very
God.
wild. So her and Jack make it back to Earth, and probably my favorite animation in the movie, because it's all like some of the animation looks really good, some's a little rough, but whenever her and Jack are in the real world and they are like blipping back and forth, it looks so cool. Like
Yeah.
the animators is like rotoscoped, I guess, because it matches up with their human form so well. Like they'll be twirling and like a few frames at a time or blipping back and forth, and like the live action animation are so in sync as it flashes back and forth. The effect is like really cool. And for some reason, when they're blipping here, they don't look like well, Holly for sure doesn't look like her animated version again. She looks like this weird rubber hose style character, this completely new character. She looks wild, and Jack looks like a weird character too. But whatever animation technique they're using there is super cool. There's nothing else like that in the movie.
And that's kind of what just keeps popping into my head watching this whole thing, is just that there's these moments of like I said, they're putting in the work, and it's just such a strange thing to see it be worked on, and to see that level of attention to detail and that level of craft, and then the plot itself is sometimes so nonsensical. Like I said, having talked through the plot of this movie now together, I'm still not sure what Holly is trying to do. I don't know.
I know she wants the spike.
She wants the spike because she thinks the spike will make her annoyed permanently. But when the Noid like ushers in this like cartoon invasion into the real world, she doesn't seem shocked by that.
Yeah.
Like she doesn't seem confused by that. And
it doesn't seem like things are going wrong.
It
seems like it's I don't.
The opposite. It feels like indeed this is what you wanted. Like anyway.
Last notes here. It's really funny whenever Jack's neighbors come to check on him, and we have Kim Basinger just being real for the first time, and she just tells him, "I'm real." It's very funny to see her talk like that, and then very Barbie-esque. I guess it's another example. There's an example. It's not a mermaid. And then whenever she goes to a nightclub and gives a performance,
don't control the railroads,
as if she was, her animated persona. She gets up on stage at this nightclub and gives that lounge style performance, and I'll just say this. My note here is Jesus Christ, Kim. I'll leave it at that. Go watch the movie.
Yeah. This movie is like, I want to make it very clear that like, we're not like, this movie is like almost equal parts interesting and baffling to me at the same time. Like like I said, there's genuine craft at play here that I can't help but respect, because like clearly Bakshi is giving this everything he has. Like he's putting true effort into this. He's got direct, like there's a vision here. But at the same time, in execution, that vision is kind of baffling. There's like a level of craft, like you're talking about, like when they're like just that opening sequence, just the tight narrative that it tells on its own, then just immediately like hard smashes to this animated world where he just accepts it. Like, and I don't know, and like to me, there's almost an interesting story there that gets ignored of like Brad Pitt adapting to Cool World, because we just flash forward 40 years, 50 years almost, to now he's just a cop in Cool World, and he's been a cop in Cool World that whole time. But like that story of like the reverse fish out of water, which I guess is a little bit like what Bob Hoskins did to Roger Rabbit, so you don't want to go too hard on that. So you flip it the other way. And it's just, and then like you said, the rotoscoping when they're flipping back and forth between the types of characters, the design choices in the Cool World sequences with live action characters interacting with cartoons. Like there's just so many pieces of this where like I can't help but be impressed. But there's other pieces where, like I said, I'm just confused. But there's a level of craft on display here that I think has to be seen. Like I think you need to watch this movie, like for better or worse. Like I said, there is a Shout Factory Blu-ray that's out there. Wikipedia erroneously suggests it's a 4K. I
saw that. Yeah, it is from a 4K scan, which maybe is how that confusion happened.
But there is a Blu-ray out there. You can get it on Grove. You can get it on Amazon. But you can also, like I said, watch it for free on YouTube. And I definitely suggest you watch it. I think this is a movie that you kind of have to experience truly. Because we're not doing it. I like, as much as we've talked about it, I don't feel like we've done it justice. So you need to watch it.
we can't. And like my big take, like hashtag PP. Here's my big take on this movie. It's not good. It doesn't work. Sorry, hashtag PP. But I think it's very important that these kind of movies get made. I think it's very important that we let creative people explore like this. And obviously, it's not always going to hit or come together or work, but you have to go through the process to get to the places where it does. And like you're saying, it's still worth experiencing at least once and checking out, even if narratively or whatever it's not all coming together. But it's a one of a kind movie for sure. Andrew, I'm excited to finally be diving into our listener demands. We had a bit of a delay at the beginning of the month getting these narrowed down, but we are going to be bringing you 4 episodes on movies that you demanded. We got over 40 movies submitted. Thank you, everyone that put in the effort to do that. We had a lot to choose from, to narrow down, and double checking here. I don't think we had a single repeat movie. I don't think we had any movie get requested multiple times, which is shocking to me. I was very surprised to see that.
Yeah, it was kind of surprising because the joke I was making, the kind of internal thought we had was that if something got recommended multiple times, that would like jump it to the top of the list as far as picks went. We would kind of, if multiple people asked for something, then that's obviously the thing we should do. But literally nobody double requested anything. We did have some people request things we'd already done. That was pretty funny.
That did happen a couple of times, yeah. If you want to hear our Jingle All the Way episode, it exists. Go back, listen to it. Thank you for doing so. It's good. Obviously.
Wasn't there another one? Oh yeah, How the Grinch Stole Christmas too. Same way. That's out there.
We can't get to all of these. Obviously, we're not doing 40 episodes this month. We had to narrow it down, just kind of based on what we felt would make a good episode of our show, based on our premise and what we do here. So,
guys, we picked what we wanted.
Yeah, in a sense. I mean, shout out to one of the later ones to come through was Your Name, the anime from 2016, a movie I've seen before. I think you've seen before. Really good. Like I love that movie, and I would love to do an episode on it. But we're only doing 4 episodes, and we did talk about it, consider it. I don't think we're going to be covering it, but thank you so much for submitting that. And here's a recommendation for Your Name for anybody out there that has not seen it. That was submitted by Avon11. I don't know who you are, but thank you for sending that in. But next week, the movie we are covering was submitted by one Mike Lynch. And it's a movie called The Great Outdoors. Andrew, you familiar with this one?
I am extremely familiar with The Great Outdoors.
I am familiar with it in the sense that I vaguely know what
it exists.
I think I can picture the cover, but I don't think I've ever watched this one. I'd be shocked if I haven't seen like some scenes, but like I think I confuse this like maybe with like Uncle Buck. I might be mixing some stuff up in my head.
There's a couple of John Candy movies where he plays a similar character. There's one he's in. I think it's called Summer Rental. Yeah, there's definitely a point where John Candy's character kind of becomes. I can get it, but Great Outdoors is one of my favorites. It's later. It's 1988. It's weird to say that that's later, but like that's after Planes, Trains, and Automobiles and Spaceballs and Splash and stuff like that. But it is before things like Cool Runnings or Delirious, Only the Lonely. I'm a big John Candy fan, but even Home Alone is the year 2 years after Great Outdoors. So Great Outdoors is kind of right in the middle when we're also right before Uncle Buck. So we're right before I think he kind of busts out. Like this is post Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, but pre Uncle Buck and Home Alone. So we're kind of right on the cusp of John Candy's kind of big moments. But yeah, it's Dan Aykroyd too, like obviously between Ghostbusters and playing kind of a jerk, which is weird for Dan Aykroyd, but I guess not really, because if you watch like
Trading
Tommy Boy,
Places, he's kind of a jerk.
So I don't know, what am I talking about? He's a jerk all the time. Anyway, it is. It's I'm excited to talk about it. I tried to once upon a time. I pitched a John Candy month. Did not come to pass. Chris did not let me do that. I will never let that go.
Never let me let it go. Yeah.
Did get to talk about John Candy on Wagons East back during the 0% month, but
And
I'm
Home
excited
Alone. Oh no, wait, you did Home Alone too. Wait, never mind.
Easy.
Yeah, you're right. I guess it's just Wagons East.
Home Alone was suggested for this month. We will not be getting to that. Would have been a nice festive one. Maybe if we have some spare time, we can knock something else out. But who has spare time now? But anyway, I'm excited to talk about Great Outdoors. So that will be next week.
I'm excited to watch The Great Outdoors for the first time. And if you want to see our entire lineup of listener demands, you know what I'm going to say right here. You can hop into our Discord server. There's a link in our show notes. Just click on the link. Come and join us if you haven't already. Join the conversation. Hang out with fellow nerds. And I'll be posting the movies we have selected for December. Movies that you demanded that we are covering. And until next week, just remember that maybe not every movie is great,
but all movies have greatness.
Thank you to Mark Benavides for singing our theme song. You can check him out on Instagram at NotThatMarkAnthony. And thanks to Mitch for the music. Follow him on Blue Sky and check our show notes for the SoundCloud link. Check out our store on TeePublic for some Best of the Rest merch. And if you enjoyed this episode, please share it with a friend. That's the only way that we grow. Follow us on social media at BOTRcast. Thank you. Yeah. Hey, bud. You gonna sleep in your Spider-Man jams? And go to school in them tomorrow? Okay. You going to bed? Can Andrew see your Spider-Man jams?
Very cool, Bruce.
Show him the webs. I meant these webs. Yeah, that's cool too.
Oh, it's got the sleeve webs. Nice. I love a good sleeve web on Spider-Man.
Andrew said nice. Did you hear him? All right. Okay. Good night, buddy.
Good night.
Love you. Mwah.
Cute kid.
Yeah, he's all right.